So today we're going to try and find out a little bit more about the Tour de France. We've got this incredible guest, a Welshman, the third Welshman in history to ride the Tour de France. He's done 8 of them. He's been in the winning team 5 times, and he is known as one of the greatest road captains, whatever that may be, in the world, in the Tour. Luke Rowe. How are you, Luke? Thanks for coming on.
I'm very well. That was a lovely introduction. Thank you very much.
Well, it's good to set things off on the right foot. What is a road captain then?
Right, straight into it. It's
I don't know. Well, I don't know what one is. Do you know what one is, Eliot?
Well, I mean, Luke, can you start talking about what is a Grand Tour? Let's start there.
Yeah, let's go there.
Okay, Grand Tour.
Yeah.
Grand Tour. Let's take it back to basics. So there's 3 Grand Tours a year. Starts off with the Giro d'Italia, which is obviously the Tour of Italy. Then it moves on to the Tour de France, which is obviously the biggest one. And then at the back end of the year is the Vuelta a España, Tour of Spain. And a Grand Tour is a 3-week race, 21 days. You normally have 2 rest days, so it'll start on a Saturday and roll through 3 weeks. And they're brutal, they're hard, they're unforgiving, but they're the pinnacle of our sport.
And is that, if you're riding Grand Tours, is that your only focus? Do you ride other events throughout the rest of the year?
No, you'll ride other events. You'll typically a Grand Tour leader, so the guys who are going to win these races, they'll focus on one of the 3. Historically, you could perhaps focus on 2, but the sport's got so intense and so hard, and you carry so much fatigue. Post Grand Tour, now it focuses more on a guy really focusing on one Grand Tour a year.
Has anyone won all 3 Grand Tours in a year? Did Stephen Roche do it or not? I can't remember. Is it like you said? It's almost impossible now, but back in the day, was it ever done? Do you know?
Was it ever done?
I had a feeling. That's a good look.
Yeah.
I stumped him with this one.
That's a great question. I know.
What is that? What's the horse racing? There's 3 of them, and it's like that. It's like if you win, Seabiscuit won all 3.
Seabiscuit.
Well, anyway, let's go back to the.
I don't know much about horse racing and
okay,
Seabiscuits.
I know a lot about biscuits.
I know a lot of guys have ridden 3 Grand Tours in a row, and I think most recently, who became famous and almost made a career out of it, is riding back to back, year-on-year Grand Tours, was a guy called Adam Hansen, an Australian fella. And don't quote me on this, but I think he did 21 Grand Tours back to back.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's 9 years, isn't it, almost 10 years worth of Grand Tours.
That's
and he didn't,
crazy.
He finished every one. He finished every one.
And so now that I kind of have an idea of these 3-week races, tell me what?
Hang on.
Okay.
Right, I didn't like to go on Wikipedia
I saw him
during
over
a
there
podcast, but I have.
researching.
Yeah, look at this. So far, the triple crown of road cycling in both the narrow and broader definition has been achieved by only 3 cyclists. Eddie Merckx, Stephen Roche, get in there, my road knowledge is full on, and someone whose name I can't really say, Annemiek van Vleuten. Vleuten?
Annemiek van Vleuten, female cyclist.
It's been done 3 times. That's pretty incredible, huh?
And so I guess why is that more impossible now? Because people are just focused on, the Giro or the Tour or something like that. You specialize in one.
Before I answer that, I'm also going to confess to just Wikipedia. And
Speak to me, son, you have sinned.
Adam Hansen did 20 Grand Tours in a row.
Hey, we'd be
So I was
stuffing out
one
our
off.
phones, thank God.
You guys, I
Good
didn't
old
know
Google,
that you guys
eh?
were cheating. I didn't know that. I didn't even bring my phone in here.
Didn't know. Elliot's
Hey, if you
turned
don't
up
know
at
the
a
answer,
gunfight
blag
with
it.
a knife. He is not equipped for
Wow.
this.
But back to your question, why is it so hard to do the treble nowadays? I think the sport has got to the point where it's so intense. It's so almost in the last 5 years, it's got more professional than it has in the previous 30. Guys are crossing their T's, dotting the I's. Training is so accurate, prescribed, specific. People are weighing every gram of food. And I think it's as much a mental battle as it is a physical, in that to prepare and go to a Grand Tour, be the best you can and win, just takes its toll on you. So then to repeat that 2 more times in the season, I mean, I couldn't do it. I think even just to ride 2 or 3 Grand Tours is a massive ask, but then to go and try and win is a whole new game. Adds a whole new element. To go and ride, you can have some easier days. You can have some days where you're a bit relaxed. Whereas if you're going to go and win the thing, every day you're all guns blazing, 100%, and it's a mental and physical huge demand.
When I watch the Tour de France, which I do when I can, like if I'm at home or I'm near a TV, I'll watch the highlights in the evening because it's just amazing. But like, yeah, it must be pretty stressful, mate. And I don't know actually, as we said, what a road captain is. But like, you have to watch every move of every rider if you're leading, right? You have to cover everything. The stress on the team and that lead rider must be pretty intense. Is that something that you are a part of then, trying to sort of help the lead rider, if you like, in your team?
Yeah, give us an overview of the roles in a road team.
Yeah, because we don't know that, right?
Yeah.
I know what...
Okay. Yeah. So, first of all, what I've done in my 8 Tour de France's is the road captain role, which is an over-glorified term. It sounds amazing. If you're a captain in a football, it does. If you're a captain in a football,
don't blow this,
or
dude.
rugby
Keep
team,
it up there.
I'm just being honest. Then it's a privilege and it's a band of honour on your sleeve. But in a cycling terms, it's simply a case of, you have your 8 riders on the road. You have the director behind who has the radio comms in your ear. But essentially, in the race, anything can go wrong at any moment, and you've got to make snap calls. And you're there amongst your teammates. And the big job is communication amongst the 8 and back to the director. Then on top of that, you're trying to, at the end of every day, you want to get the most out of each rider and the order to use them. Some will have a good day, some will have a bad day. And then you're trying to look around at the opponents, look around at the other teams. And on top of that, you're trying to assess, your rivals, the rivals' teams, sense weaknesses, and sense where you can use your team and your riders to the best of the capabilities. So, you can make a plan at the start of the stage, and that'll come from the directors. They'll do a presentation on the bus, blah, blah, blah. This is how we're going to tackle the stage. But you can make a plan.
Is that how most days start for you then, with a meeting in the bus and a team director going, like, this is what we're going to try and do today? That's where it starts.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So it even starts before that. So in the evening before the stage, they'll come around to each rider. If they're, chilling out in the room or having massage, they'll go around each rider. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. And then they'll make a plan that evening. The next day, we'll travel to the start of the stage. There'll be a presentation, and it'll include, the profile, the climbs, the generic stuff for that stage, and then it'll go into our tactics. What do we want to do today? What do we want to achieve? How can we, at the end of the day, you're trying to preserve yourself and exploit others. That's the simple.
Is that right? Yeah.
What is
make it as hard as you can for all the other teams.
And what's the difference between, like, what makes a road team world class? Like, what separates you guys from everyone else?
Okay, the first of all is the obvious one is you need the talent. You need 8 guys who are world class at what they do, and you need, the most important thing is the one leader. The guy who can finish it off. That's the most important thing, and from there you build down. So you have your one leader who's the best in the world and can win the bike race. Then you have 7 supporting riders who are world class as a support rider. And then I think maybe something at a bit of a different angle, which people don't really think about. And when I think back to when we had, huge success in Grand Tours, and like you said on that beautiful introduction, being part of 5 Tour de France victories, what I think about that is how well we got on off the bike. And we had training camps in Tenerife, and if I paint the picture, you're at the top of a volcano. I don't know if you guys have been there, at the top of Mount Tidy, and there's nothing there. There's a hotel on the top of a volcano, and there's nothing else. And you ride your bike, but apart from that, it can be quite boring, quite long afternoons. But we had a right laugh, and these 8 guys that we went to the Tour de France with when we were having this major success they weren't colleagues, they were mates, and we had so much fun off the bike, And I'm 100% sure if you have a team that has fun off the bike and is mates off the bike, that transfers massively to when you get on that start line and you just gel. You're a unit. You're as one. And I used to ride with these guys, and I knew if they were on a good day or a bad day without speaking to them, just sitting behind them and looking at the way they pedal. You know, Ian Stannard, I'd ride with him he's a British guy. I rode several Tour de France with him, and he was a similar type of rider to me on the flat, and we would ride at the front trying to control the brake. And I knew the way his right knee would flick out, how he was going that day. And we would ride for 150k, and we wouldn't even talk. We knew each other that well, and I think that's one factor. Apart from the talent and the superstar within the team, I think it's one factor that can be overshadowed and overlooked a bit, is that cohesion and willingness to ride into a brick wall for each other.
And, you know, I guess that's sort of your job then, is kind of to is it then, like you say, you have these tactics set by the director in the bus in the start of the morning and say, you know, rider A, we're going to save you for the last climb. But if you see that he's struggling, then is it then your job to go, right, you're not, you look like you're hurting, we're going to put you, and you switch riders to sort of cover that last climb, for instance? Is it a bit like that, your job, or not?
Yeah, partly that. I think there'll be feet, so that'll be, I'll perhaps talk to that rider, speak to the car, speak to the directors, and we'll come up with a plan.
What if someme's hurting? They will tell you.
All the time.
Are the riders honest with you? Like, if you say you hurting, you up for this? Can you cover this breakout? I mean, do they? I mean, your mates, but do they sometimes? They don't want to say they're hurting, and then you'll see them, and you'll be like, "Oh, that was the wrong move." Does that happen a fair bit, or?
That's a great question, and I think again that's where if you have a team who are honest, like I said, like these almost dream teams that I was a small part of, that's where you have honesty, no egos.
Yeah.
Leave your ego at home, mate. I'm not interested, you know. And in them times, it was, you know, you'd have some guy who was pulling in the last climb in the final for 3 days in a row, and then the next day he'd go, mate, today it's just not happening. It's just not happening. Right, you get on the radio, okay, so and so, he's having a nightmare. He's having a bad day. Things aren't going right. Switch it up.
Yeah.
But then you don't want to let on to other teams that he's struggling. So you might try
I hadn't thought of that, because all the other teams are looking at you like you're looking at them.
It's like a game of poker, yeah. And
it's pretty fun, is
you
it,
might
or
say, not? It's fun if you're successful. It's fun if you're successful.
You're on the winning side.
Yeah.
What is
it?
What is it like being in the peloton? Like, I mean, on the TV, it just looks like a swarm of people, but there's so much going on. Like, what is happening when you're riding with the team and all the other teams in those big groups?
I think there's always something happening, and you look at sometimes I watch a race, and to be honest, if it's far out, I think to myself, this is quite boring. There's, you know, it just looks like they're riding along, and you know, you'll see a couple of guys having a chat and guys going back and getting bottles from the car, but there's always something happening. And I think one way I kind of explain it is if you think the start of the race, the start of a stage, you've got a bag of sand, and someone gets a needle and just pops a hole in it, and your sand starts trickling out. And that's your energy for the day, that bag of sand. And every acceleration, every time it goes uphill, every time you under fuel, every time you do anything, someone pops an extra hole in this bag of sand, and this sand is just dripping out the whole day. So the whole day, you're trying to minimize any accelerations. You're trying to nail your fueling. You're trying to accelerate a little bit slower out of the corner. Not to do these. Yeah, because every time you do anything like this, every time is, and that's what I say to some of the young guys. You got this bag of sand, and once it's that's your energy.
Yeah. You
stick too many needles in it, this sand's trickling out. Your day's
and I guess
done.
you're trying to poke holes in the other dude's bag as well.
Exactly. Everyone's got their bag of sand.
Yeah.
It's a simple way of trying to explain it, yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about your background. I heard that you started on a tandem bike with your dad. How did it lead from there to the Tour de France?
Correct, yeah. How did it lead from staring at my dad's ass for 3 hours to the Tour de France.
Not pedaling. He's doing a lot of pedaling.
Yeah, he was not working at all then.
Yeah, no, it was good times. It was great times growing up. I think we actually had 2 tandems. I've got a brother who's 2 years older than me, and at a young age where we weren't quite old enough to go on the road ourselves, my brother would go on a tandem with my mum, and I go on a tandem with my dad, and yeah, it was good times. And looking back, we had some great memories. You know, go camping, stick the tent on the back, and we often wouldn't ride far, ride 15 miles, camp and come back, and we spent many a weekend like that.
Amazing.
But that's where the love of the sport started, and it's given me. And then as you grow older, you get your own bike, you can go out on your own, and it just gave you, for me, it just gave you such a sense of freedom.
Yeah.
If it was football, you would go to the same field every weekend.
Right.
If it was rugby, likewise. But with cycling, I could go out my front door, and the world was my oyster as a kid, and you can go where you want, and
it's independence,
you guys know
isn't it?
how it
For
is.
the first time in your life, really. That was the same for me with mountain biking. When they came along, that bike, you can get away from the parents at 14, go out for 2 or 3 hours. You know what I mean? It was cool. It's right.
Funny
That's how it started.
How similar it is
Yeah.
for like all different disciplines and sports. I mean, even when I was 4 or 5 years old, I would ride like 2 houses down and be like, man, I don't know if I can get back. Who knows where I'm at? Like, miles away.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Good times.
Yeah. You gave us a beautiful way of painted a beautiful picture of how you started cycling on the back of your mum and dad's tandem going camping. Obviously, it couldn't really be further away from that now, the brutality of the professional peloton of the Grand Tours. Do you still enjoy cycling as much? Obviously it started as a leisure activity, and now I don't even know how many hours you do a day, but it's not a small amount of hours on the bike, is it? Let's not get away from the gnarly training you need to do to ride at that level.
No, definitely. I think it's intense, and I think this is my 13th year pro, so it's year on year. And in some senses it gets easier, and in some senses it gets harder. Certainly the training, it's year on year it gets tougher. It's like an arms race. The more you can do, the better you'll be, which is not entirely true, but there is a lot to it. So I still love the sport. I still enjoy riding my bike. I got to be honest, sometimes I go out on my bike and I see it purely as a job.
Yeah.
I've got to go out.
Of course.
Of course. I think it's natural to have them days. You can go out, and sometimes I've got to do 5 hours, and you think, I'm doing this because I have to, not because I want to. They're rare days, don't get me wrong. Most of the time I go out, I enjoy it and love riding my bike. But of course, there's days where you think, I don't want to ride my bike. And that's the difference between it being a hobby and a job, right? Where you can suck it off.
And I guess you have to ride it, for want of a better word, almost scientifically now, right? It's not like you literally can go out, ride where you want. Like you said, as a kid, you can just a blank piece of paper. I'd imagine now your heart rate needs to be somewhere where you want it. And I don't know, is that right? I don't know. It's much more complicated than just going out for a bike ride.
Do you know what? I'm a bit of a traditionalist in that sense. I probably haven't moved with the times as much as I should, if I'm being honest. The sport is going more and more like that, where you have to go out and ride 5 hours at X amount of power, or try and keep the heart rate at this or that or the other. But for me, generally, you'll have the two different types of training days. One will be where you go out and you do efforts, and there's no avoiding that. You've got to ride, certain blocks, 15 minutes at this power, and then and that's specific, and you can't really get away from that. And then you have your general rides, where it's just a longer endurance ride, where them days I like to just keep it real and go out, get a few mates. Some will be better than you, some will be weaker than you, and you just kind of ride round, stop at the calf, ride 3 hours, stop at the calf, ride home, and keep it real. And maybe I'd be better, I don't know, if I was to move with the times a little bit, but a bit of me I quite like that simple freedom that was the reason I first fell in love with the sport, and I don't think I'll ever ever change that.
No, and it's nice to hear you keep that value.
Yeah, for sure. And so talk to me a little bit about what it's like to be in a race for 3 weeks. You know, like how how fast you
Eliot
guys
used
going.
to be in one for 3 minutes. So, you can see where we're coming from. We did downhill, you know what I mean? It couldn't be further away from what
for sure.
do.
Like, are you, like, what are the fatigue levels like for 3 weeks? Like, I just can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, there's no getting away from how brutal it is. I don't think you can really express it or explain to anyone who hasn't really done one.
You'd have to almost go through it to know what it was like, right? It's like it's every day
Yeah.
you're going to get up and ride another 200 mile or something. Like, it's absolutely insane, mate. It's insane. It is. It's actually madness.
Whoever first thought of that idea said, you know what, we'll do this. You know, they must have been off their rocker, but it's just a constant wearing down process. And what I find is after a week, 10 days, you kind of hit this barrier where the fatigue doesn't get much more, and you're pretty cooked.
Is that right?
And then it just becomes... Yeah, I find,
About
after
halfway
a week, 10
through,
days,
you're absolutely smoked, and you've got to survive the rest of it.
and then it... For me, it just becomes purely mental.
Right.
Like,
Does it?
I'm going up a climb, I'm suffering, I'm trying not to show it, but I'm suffering. I look right, I look left, they look $1 million. But up here, I'm like, well, I know he's suffering, I know he's suffering.
Yeah.
So it's all a mental game. And I think after 10 days, that fatigue level is there. It's not going to go, okay, you have 2 rest days. You don't recover diddly squat in a day. You start the next day, you go again. And I think the last week of the Grand Tour is such a mental battle. And I think it counts for so much. But certainly the fatigue is, we do everything we can to recover. But at the end of the day, you just can't. You're spending more than you're earning.
And so is that what separates, a dude who would win the Tour, is just that the mental strength that they have? Like, is this the hardest race in cycling, and is that what makes the difference between the goods and the greats?
Yeah, I think certainly, going back to, obviously, number one is talent, and you've got to have the capabilities to ride at that speed and that power for that long enough. But any Grand Tour rider, any Grand Tour that I've been a part of, and somebody's won or had a podium or had great success in the Grand Tour overall, I've just been, without swearing, hard people. And you look at Chris Froome, you look at Geraint Thomas, you look at Egan Bernal. I've ridden and they've won the Grand Tour. And these guys, you look at them and they just look like skinny little blokes. They are tough, mate. They are, they're brutal. And they're like little pit bulls. They're on the start line. They want more. They want to race aggressive. They're tenacious. And they're just, I've seen these guys break bones and they just shrug it off. I've seen them cut to bits and they shrug. They're almost, they're just tough. They're just tough people. And there's, and in the third week, that's where it really counts. That's where, one bad day and it's all over. So, there's a lot to be said for that mental aspect in the back end of a race like the Tour de France.
And you mentioned Geraint Thomas. What was it like seeing him win in 2018? I mean, he's your co-host. How big was it for him, and kind of Wales and everything? What did that mean to you?
Yeah, it was surreal. I think one question I get asked is, which was your favourite win to be a part of, and it has got to be that one. And if you think, rewind the clock to when I said we were riding tandems. Not long after that is when I met Geraint, and he lived 2 miles from my house.
What sort of age was that? When you were kids?
I'd have been 8, maybe.
No way. So you went all 11. The way up through cycling from the valleys to going and watching your mate win the Tour. That's your Welsh mate win the Tour de France. That's insane, right?
Yeah.
It's a surreal story.
Yeah,
it really is. And he gave me a yellow jersey after he'd won, and we have the Maindy track, which is an outdoor velodrome, and on it he wrote, "From the bright lights of Maindy to Paris." And that's really what it.
Wow.
And that's what it was. Yeah, we grew up riding around the streets on our BMXs. You know, when we got a little bit older, we'd be out in the lanes and, you know, like when you're a kid, who are you going to be today? Oh, I'll be Mario Cipollini.
Wow.
You can be Marco Pantani. It was like that. And we were just two kids growing up, and I guess I followed in his footsteps. He was a few years older than me. He turned pro a few years older than me. Then we joined Team Sky together, which is now Team Ineos Grenadiers. And we've kind of, stuck together like glue. And to see, like, I can never, ever win anything like this or anything near. I just, I haven't got the capabilities to win. So
you haven't. Is that something you've settled with yourself? Is that? I was going to ask you, like,
yeah,
actually,
it is, yeah.
Will your turn come? Will you go for the win of the Tour? Will you be the team like as in the team leader, right? But you sound like you're pretty content with what you got.
No, to be honest, when you turn professional, you never really say, well, I want to be a helper, a domestique, which is the phrase we use, which is the French translation is helper.
Yeah.
And when you turn pro, you don't set your sights on doing that. You envisage yourself winning races.
Yeah.
Big races, Tour de France, Paris-Roubaix. That's how you envisage your career.
Especially, we come from mountain biking where you would try and win on your own, but you're in a team, right? And you are given very specific roles, right? You have to do what you're told a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And I turned pro, and first year pro, I did my share of helping, but I tried to win races. Second year pro, did my share of helping, tried to win races, and I picked up the odd win, but it soon became apparent that I wasn't good enough to go out there and win multiple races a year. So I'm 21. How am I going to make a career out of this for 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm going to try and go down the domestique role, but I'm going to try and I said to myself, I can't be the best winner in the world, so I'm going to try and be the best domestique in the world. And I'm going to try and make it that any leader, they say, who do you want to race this race with you? And the first name they write down is Luke Rowe. Right. That's what I had in my head.
Yeah.
That's not what, I'm not overselling myself. That's what I said. I want to try and be.
It kind of turned out that way. It's okay.
There's some good guys. There's some tough competition. But that's what I said. If I'm going to, give up this chance of trying to win races and go down the domestique role, then I don't want to be mediocre. I want to be the best in the world at it. And that's what I set myself up for. And that's the career I've pursued for many a year. And I've been a helping hand to many great riders, and I can't win, but they can. So it's as close as I can come to winning.
And I was going to say, you've been a part of 5 winning Tour de France teams. Obviously, when Geraint and your mates win, and I imagine that's a different thing altogether. But does it, you're, as we say, like from mountain biking, it's individual, but this is a team sport. Does that feel when the team wins? Is that as good as a win to you personally? It must feel like that, right? Yeah,
no, it is. I got a massive kick and a buzz out of a teammate winning, and if you think a lot of the time I'll be doing the earlier stuff in the stage. If it's a flat stage, I'll be saved more towards the end. But if you think you've done on a mountain day, it's flat, I'm riding on the front, you get dropped, you pass one climb, you pass another climb, and then you're heading up to the finish. I probably got 8K to go, and you hear on the radio, your man's finished it off. Your man just won the stage. It's just
wow.
But you've done your work early in the day. You just got to stay in time and get over that line.
Yeah.
Is that basically it? And does that ever become quite difficult? Do you have days where even that's a problem? Do you get that? Can you have that exhausted? Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, so I've done 8 Tour de France's. I've finished 6, and the two that I didn't finish. One I got disqualified, and then the other one I missed the time cut. And
did you?
that was 2021, and it was a hard start. A breakaway went, which we weren't a part of, and then we said, right, we're gonna start riding on the front of the peloton. And on this day, we did 2 laps of Mont Ventoux. So I started riding on the front. Yeah,
no,
the buggers.
Why?
Up it, down the other side.
Wow.
Yes. So I started pulling on the front of the peloton, trying to bring the breakaway back. We hit Ventoux for the first time. I was one of the first blokes dropped. And I was on my own. First descent, do a loop round, second descent, and I missed the time cut. I think the time cut. Again, don't quote me. It was say 45 minutes, and I was 46 minutes.
Oh God!
So I missed.
Oh,
I missed it by a minute. And then it's pack your bags and off you go, and the show rolls on, and you go home. So you're out. You're done. It's devastating. Yeah, I was absolutely devastated.
Yeah, gutted, mate.
And Luke, what happened with the disqualification?
The disqualification was a bit of a ding dong with a fella called Tony Martin, who's
I've heard of him.
So I was riding for a great rider and a great bloke, and no, straight up. So he was riding for Jumbo, and they had Roglic. So they were like a top GC team. We were riding for that year. It might have been. I don't know. I was riding for one of our leaders, and he had the same job as me. So we were kind of grating on each other day 1, day 2, day 3, and we got on well. We had that mutual respect, but we just kind of, annoyed each other throughout the race.
What is the tension there? Like what happens?
Yeah, I'm interested. Like there must be some. Not everyone in that peloton's getting on with each other, are they?
Oh no! There's swearing and shouting,
Touching the front brakes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of. Essentially, let's take it back to basics. If you think, where do the crashes happen? They happen normally in the middle of the peloton, a bit further behind. Anything behind the crash, you're caught out. You're caught behind it. You're chasing. So where's the best place to be? Front of the peloton.
Right.
The road is only so wide. It varies. So only so many people can be at the front of the bike race at a time. So you're all fighting for that real estate. And you all want to be in the front. You're going to be in front of the splits. You're going to be in front of the crashes. You can see the road in front of you. You can see the fans. You have the best run. Behind is a mess. So, you're fighting for position. And it's on this occasion, it was Tony's job to get his leader in front, my job to get my leader in front. And one day it boiled over. I think it was stage 16. And we had a bit of a ding dong and.
Punches thrown?
I could.
This is good. This is what we want.
Almost. Yeah.
That's it. Oh, you got preheated.
Yeah. It got preheated, and we both got thrown out the Tour de France right there, right then.
Did you?
Yeah. He just had enough of me, and I'd had enough of him, and it boiled over a bit. And now I'm in a position where I can look back. It's been, I don't know, 5-6 years, whatever it's been, and I can laugh about it. But I remember at the time. It's just, again, horrific. You do this training camp with these boys in Tenerife. You go and race something like the Dauphiné before the Tour de France. You go to the Tour de France. At the time, we were second in. I was racing for Egan Bernal. Egan Bernal won that year, and he was second in the race when I left. He went on to win it. We knew. So
you guys still were able to win that year,
and we'd gone through this whole journey. We'd gone through this, like I say, this group, this core. We were tight, We were on this mission, and to go home, and then I think it was maybe stage 16. You're in the thick of it. You're in the Tour de France. Stage 17. You're sat at home in Cardiff watching it on TV.
Right.
No way.
Yeah.
It's literally. Were you?
Yeah.
Did you? I'd imagine you felt probably like you let the team down a bit, but did you get in trouble? Was that something that got you like some disciplinary kind of talking tos, or did they go, that's part of it, you're going home, but don't worry?
No, luckily. There's a few questions there. Firstly, I did feel like I'd let the team down, and I felt, if anything had happened in them last few days that I could have changed the outcome of.
Yeah.
If they'd have been a man short somewhere, or if they'd have missed a split, or if I could have changed something in the last few days, and I had watched that unfold, knowing, well, that was my job, and I'm sat here, that would have broken me. Luckily, it didn't unfold that way. But we had Dave Brailsford at the time, who was team principal, and he was absolutely brilliant. And he could have. I deserved a bit of a telling off. I deserved some punishment, but they said, for many a year you've done your job. You've looked after your teammates, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
That being said, if I did it again, I'd be in trouble probably.
Yeah.
But they said, listen, this time we'll let you off.
But it's good that they recognise that passion. Like, it's almost impossible for you to be at the front there every day without that passion, right? You know what I mean? So, a good experience for you, I suppose.
Well, one thing I'll say is it was a mistake and it was stupid, but at the same time, I did it with the right intention, and it wasn't for me. I wasn't doing it for me.
No.
Right.
I was doing it for my teammate who could win the Tour de France.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I stand by, is that it was stupid and I made a mistake, and I deeply regret it. And I've got, to this day, I spoke to Tony. I got a lot of respect for him. But yeah, it was with the right intentions.
And you were saying that Geraint really was kind of influential in helping you put it in perspective. What did he say to you?
Oh, he was just. I remember a couple of guys come to my room, and he was just. You know, I'm not really a crier, to be honest. I cry at my wedding and when my kid was born and kids were born. And I did cry when that happened, because I just felt I'd let so many people down. Yeah. And you think of your family, you think of your teammates. You know, it's watched by a lot of people, and a lot of people are supporting your team, and you think, well, I'm leaving that. And he just came in and, just put my arm around his shoulder and just say, you know, there's not much to say, but it is what it is. And he was the one who said, listen, we all... Because my biggest feeling was for the team and for them 7 blokes. Okay, all this exterior stuff, I can deal with that, whatever. You know, family, they'll always love me. And but my feeling, and who I felt sorry for, was the 7 blokes that I was leaving behind. And he said that what I just said is that, you know, you did it for the best intention, and you didn't do it for yourself. You did it for us guys, and we appreciate that. So it is what it is. And he said, make sure you come to Paris. And I went home. I had a few days at home, so I'd have been at home 17,
Did you want to go home? Did you feel like you needed to go back to Cardiff? I mean, you could have hung out, right, in France, but you wanted to get away, or...
Do you know what I said to Dave? I said, right, I'm out. What do I do? I said, if there's anything I can do to help, I'll stay and help. I'll give out bottles on the side of the road. Anything I can do. And he said, no, listen, there's a lot of noise around it. You're better off just going home, chilling out.
Oh, is that right?
Kind of ducking out.
What actually happened?
What happened with Tony?
Well, because you said you did it for the team, and I was like, what did you do?
What did you do? Drama, Rob is like, oh my God, I've never
I want to get to the bottom of the drama, yeah.
Do you know what? In any other sport, this would be nothing, but it's just because it's road cycling, it's blown up into something it shouldn't be. If it was... So all right, so what actually happened? On that day, coming into the climb, we're coming into a final climb, we were fighting for position. I was trying to go up the inside of their team. They chopped me off. I was in the gravel on the side.
Oh.
I then got in front of I retaliated, stupidly got in front of their leader, tried to mess him up a bit.
Couple little
brake
checks.
check.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm not proud of this, I'm just being honest now.
Just keep going, it's awesome.
And then we turned into the climb. Tony had seen what happened. I tried to pass him, and he fully switched me, hit my front wheel. Whoa. I almost came off. Then I tried to get around his other side. He went the other way. It's all on YouTube.
It's road rage.
It's funny you say that, because literally in mountain biking, BMX, like any other sport, this is just a normal Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like the way you tell the story and the way you get thrown out of the race. It's like, this is full on fisticuffs. It wasn't. It really wasn't.
Yeah. No. This is mellow.
And then, and then, but then when I went round him, I put my hand on his shoulder, neck, and to get past him, to move him out of the way.
Pincer moment.
It's so wild that
the rest is history.
Is that the bit because you touched him? Is that the bit that kind of made it all blow up? Then it was like they sort of physical all of a sudden, or something.
I think it was, when you look at it, it's just a bad image for the sport.
Mess, yeah.
And we were smack bang front and centre of the peloton. It wasn't like in the middle of the peloton. It wasn't hidden. You know, it's live, getting streamed to you know, all the countries and all the viewers. And you know, I look back at it and I just cringe. It's a terrible image for the sport, myself, the team. So, yeah, I think also quite harsh to throw us out.
Yeah.
I think, could have done with a slap on the wrist and a fine or whatever, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, and you got to live with these things, and you make mistakes in life, and you got to move on. You can't live with regret. So
Yeah.
what's done is
For
done.
sure.
Mate, if there's no emotion in sport, then where is emotion? Like, I did enjoy that story because I could just, well, it's just real, isn't it? It's just, you know what I mean? It's like you want it to be, it's just how it is. It's so competitive. And
I wear my
sometimes
heart
it
on my
boils
sleeve,
over.
yeah.
It's part of sport. Yeah, that's sport. That's
Yeah.
why we like it.
that resonates with you, Rob.
I've had a few moments.
that resonates with you.
Are you a mad dog, Rob?
Yeah.
Are you a mad dog?
Not anymore.
Couple of,
but I had a bit of a moody
couple
mountain
of
bike
thrown
career.
outs, couple of
Yeah, I got fired from mountain bike teams quite a lot and kicked out and bans and fines. Yeah, it was good fun. But,
Right, as
I'll do
soon
it
as
all
I
again.
finish this recording, I'm going to Google you and YouTube you
yeah.
and see how much of a mad dog you really are.
So Luke,
I'm looking forward to it.
tell me, I feel like there's so many different kind of sides to road cycling. Tell me about the Lanterne Rouge, because like it seems like it's a bit of a double-edged sword, if you will, like where it's the last place, but then at the same time you said you had a good race. Yeah, what is it, and what happened there in 2017?
Lanterne Rouge is there's quite a lot of history behind this, and historically, when the Tour de France first started, there would be the last car in the convoy would have a red lantern on it to show to light up the road for the last guy in the Tour de France, because he would often be finishing in the dark because he was so far behind.
Right.
So then they started giving out an award, Lanterne Rouge, which a red lantern, obviously, to the last place finisher in the Tour de France, which I don't know if you could say I won or I lost it, but I got this award in 2017. I was last place, and but one thing so that year on stage 2, I crashed and broke 3 ribs, and
Oh, wow.
this is a constant theme with the Lanterne Rouge. Is always someone who is kind of injured or ill or battered or crashed. It's always someone like that. It's not the sprinter or the worst climber. It's always someone who's just battled through, really,
Gone
and just
through
had
it, yeah.
Yeah.
It was Chris
Yeah,
Froome
and-
that won,
and
Google
that-
told me.
There we are, because I remember
Thanks
we
thank you,
bookended
Rob.
the peloton.
Thanks.
So I'm here. My knowledge is, road knowledge is there.
Yeah,
So just any fire
we were
questions for me?
we were first and last within the team in the Tour de France, so it was quite
No way, that's quite
strange.
mad, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I moved. So that was 2017. Got the Lanterne Rouge, and you actually get a physical red lantern. And
Amazing.
Oh, that's so
I was
cool.
moving into. I just bought a house back in Cardiff, so I moved into there, and I got a bar in the. And I'd finished the Tour de France, moved home, and I moved into the house. So I said, right, this room is going to be the bar. I got a darts board, and my mate built a bar full of beer, whatever. And we weren't sure what to call the bar. So now, ironically, straight away, I thought, I know what we're going to call the bar. So it's the Lanterne Rouge.
Oh,
So I
that's
hung that up in there.
amazing.
And the bar in my house is called the Lanterne Rouge.
Perfect.
And I feel
Ma-
like you mentioned that you've just been in the sport for so long. You host a podcast with Geraint. Like, what is it? Is that one of the ways you kind of keep the passion? Like, are you super involved? Do you love the scene? I think that's, for me, that was always one of the things that I loved the most, was just like the culture of being there, seeing my friends, like all of that stuff. Do you kind of take in the whole thing now? Is that a big part?
Yeah, I think, when the day comes and I do retire, that's the thing that I'll miss most, would be the time around the guys and the time on the bus, as opposed to the training camps and the racing itself. Just that, that being with a bunch of blokes on a mission, and you're on a start line and you're on the bus, and that ambience and that, collective group trying to achieve something great. That's what I'll miss. And I think, we do have the podcast with G now, What's Occurring. Check it out. It's mega. That's a plug. And
You've got a few more tours than you yet, though, ain't you, Luke?
Yeah.
Sounding a bit retirey over there, then. I don't know.
No, there's still life in me yet, mate. I'm not throwing in the towel. And but I think, you know, at the end of the day, why do we get into the sport? Is because we were fans of the sport. I don't
Yeah.
think it ever really changes.
No,
You
that's right enough, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I love the history of the sport.
Yeah.
You know, I still watch other races. I still look up to fellow professionals, you know, other riders and other teams, and I go, he's mega, he is. I like a lot of respect for him, and probably without realising it, you're fans of people within the peloton that you're racing against. Even.
Totally.
Yeah,
yeah,
we have that in
yeah.
mountain biking. We commentate on our idols sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though we've done it, we've been there as well. Yeah, and all the history and that. It's what makes a sport, isn't it?
Man, Luke, this has been
Yeah.
such a pleasure. Like, it was
Very
so fascinating.
enlightening. Yeah, brilliant, mate. Really, we could actually chat all afternoon about it, but unfortunately we can't. But yeah, it's been brilliant.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I think there's a lot of questions I want to ask you as well, but we haven't got all day, have we? I want to get into the nitty gritty of how mad you are.
Ask Dave Brailsford, he remembers me.
That was strategic by Rob.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Dave remembers me. I've met Dave when he was doing mountain biking. I hung out with him a bit. Yeah.
There we are. I'll get all the stories.
Thanks for explaining some of the stuff we didn't know about the tour to us. And it is just the most phenomenal watch every day. I just can't get over how hard and how gnarly road riders are, from the crashes to the downhills to the physicality of climbing the biggest mountains on planet Earth, man. It is, you know, it's an insane spectacle to watch.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate your time. Thank you.